development is similar to environment because we're thinking about the future generally. But sustainable development is thinking about how we preserve our civilization, how we preserve our quality of life over the long term. And it recognizes that things like global warming or toxics in our food supply or just toxics generally, air and water quality, can significantly impact our quality of life. But it also recognizes that there are other things that could cause civilization to crash. So for example, if the economy crashes, it's great to have clean air and water, but if you have no money to afford health care, then that's not really, I don't really care if I die from environmental contaminants or if I die because I can't afford health care, I'm still dead. So you can also think of sustainable development as recognizing that there are social and cultural elements of sustainability. JFK famously said a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's true. And conversely, if a rising tide does not lift all boats, then not everyone is working to raise that tide. And so history shows us that those societies that have permanent underclasses and a very large gap between the rich and the poor, and little mobility between classes, tend to crash, tend to have strife. And in our country, we've got a history of class and race riots and labor strikes, and we've fought for civil rights, and we're probably doing better than we ever have, and we're doing better than most countries have. But you don't have to look very far into the past, you don't have to look very far around the world to recognize that if you don't have some kind of an equitable society, your society is probably not very sustainable, and you could easily find yourself in a situation where everyone's quality of life gets quickly degraded. So economy, environment, society, all working together and all in balance, that's the crux of sustainability. It's basically saying, let's look at the future and let's think about what are the things that are going to determine whether or not we have a high quality of life, a stable quality of life, and live in the kind of place that we want to live in. So that's sustainability. Sustainable Jersey is a program that tries to help municipalities and local governments figure out what are those key sustainability issues that they need to deal with and figure out how to deal with them. It is quick show of hands again. How many people here have heard of Sustainable Jersey? Wow. More people have heard of Sustainable Jersey than are familiar with the term sustainable development. So that's interesting. Well, that's impressive. And I'm not surprised though, because this program is just a little bit over 2 years old, and despite that, more than 65% of the municipalities in New Jersey are already participating in the program, which is pretty remarkable. I'll give you the thumbnail of Sustainable Jersey, and then I'll talk about how, as citizen journalists, you can cover it, you can advance it, and you can understand the significance of what this program means to help you do a better job of being citizen journalists. So Sustainable Jersey is a certification program for municipalities, and everyone should have one of these brochures. Basically, it's got a list of actions that, and by the way, Christy Ranieri, who is the outreach coordinator for Sustainable Jersey, just walked in. And so if you're looking for a Sustainable Jersey speaker or to coordinate some kind of outreach effort, she's your point of contact. Sorry, Christy. To get certified, basically, municipalities need to do a certain number of the actions in this brochure. And each one has got a point value. And if they score enough points, they can get certified at the bronze level. And that's 150 points. And if they score 350 points, they can get certified at the silver level. And this does not mean that the town is quote-unquote sustainable, that they've solved all their problems. What the bronze means is that they've made a meaningful commitment to sustainable development, and they have succeeded in implementing a meaningful set of first steps. So they're beyond just talking about it, they've actually done something, but it's still in the early stages. The silver level of certification means that they're beyond getting started. They're making significant progress across a number of fronts, excuse me, and they're a statewide leader and probably a national leader. And to date, there are about 340 municipalities that have started the program, and there are 70 that have gotten certified at the bronze level, and there are 4 that have gotten certified at the silver level. And in the future, we intend to make a gold level of certification, which would mean that you actually are sustainable. And if everyone were to perform at the same level that you were performing, collectively as a state, we would be on track to being sustainable. But we don't offer that level of certification yet because, quite frankly, we don't know what it would mean to be totally sustainable. We couldn't define it. We couldn't specify the specific actions and levels of performance you'd have to achieve to collectively be sustainable. But it is possible to do that, and so we're working on it. So Sustainable Jersey is interesting for a number of reasons, though, because it's not just a certification program. It is a multifaceted, public-private, state-local partnership that is pooling the collective wisdom and the collective resources in the state to try to make it easier for municipalities to make progress on this host of issues. So, and I'll give you an example. And this also starts to speak to source credibility. The actions in Sustainable Jersey on this list, and by the way, if you go onto our website, you'll see this list of actions, and if you click on any one of those actions, you'll see a detailed, essentially, guidance manual or book that tells you exactly how to implement it, and tells you exactly what the standards are that you have to achieve in order to get points for it towards your certification. And there's a list of links and resources. So this list on our website constitutes probably 1,000 to 1,500 page book. And I've seen some people who printed it out, and it's a 3-ring binder, it looks about 8 big. So there's a lot of information there. And it's not an honor system either. This is another aside, I should have said it earlier. All the actions to get certified, everything that they do has to be verified by us, and they have to send documentary evidence to us that we review. And about 40% of the municipalities that apply for certification get rejected because the stuff that they did not meet our standard, or they couldn't prove to our satisfaction that they had actually done it. So it's not an honor system, and it is a rigorous program. So where do these actions come from? So now I'm off my tangent, and I'm going back towards the source credibility issue. Where do these actions come from? Who created them? Was it me? Was it, was it an environmental group? Was it a business group? Because it's interesting, when we speak around the state, depending on what part of the state we're in, sometimes people are suspicious of us because they think we are corporate shills who are trying to greenwash the town, and in other towns they think we are radical United Nations-backed environmentalists trying to take away gun rights and kill the economy. And so the truth of the matter is, neither one of those truths is true. This is a very nonpartisan, moderate effort. And the actions are actually created through a big participatory process where we convene task forces on each one of these issues. So if you see these categories on your brochure: energy, food, local economies, operations and maintenance, we have a task force for each one of those that has got nonprofit organizations, academics and scientists, state government representation, local government representation, and local implementers who all come together to deliberate on what should be the standard, what should be the specific actions and the levels of performance that municipalities would need to achieve in order to get the certification. And so it took us a year and a half of talking, researching, vetting, and approving with what is now 20 different task forces engaging about 400 individuals and organizations to come to consensus about this slate of actions. And that gives us a lot of source credibility. It basically means that this is a very broad-based, very widely accepted, highly vetted, highly transparent process to come up with these standards. It's not one person's point of view or one organization's point of view. Another consequence of the big process that we use and the credibility of the process that we use to come up with these actions is that all of the organizations that participated in those task forces have now stepped up to the plate to provide resources and incentives to municipalities to make progress towards the certification. So, for example, we worked very closely with the New Jersey Environmental Federation on the anti-idling standards and on the green cleaning supplies standards. And cleaning supplies tend to be among the most toxic things that you'll bring into a home or an office. and buying non-toxic cleaning supplies becomes a very important environmental issue. And idling is actually, considering the amount of time we idle is fairly small compared to the amount of time we drive, has an outsized impact on the environment and on greenhouse gas emissions and on pollution. So those are two big issues. And our task forces didn't just take what the Environmental Federation did. We looked around the country, we did research, we vetted what they had done, but the task force liked what they had done and said this is a very credible effort on these particular issues. And I say, Bill Wolf, you know, we had a conversation about the Federation and he's got opinions about that. But
just one man's opinion from somebody who wants to destroy the economy and seize your guns.
Right. But anyway, regardless of what you think of the Federation, you know, our task force on their work on these two issues was highly credible. And then the task force basically vetted it and blessed it. And so now we have the same standards and a lot of the same resources. We pulled their resources in to help municipalities make progress on these issues. But what that means is now the Environmental Federation is very supportive of Sustainable Jersey. And so when they go talk to their constituents, and when they use their influence and their technical assistance and their resources, they're plugging Sustainable Jersey as well. Now take that and multiply it by 200 organizations, each with their own domain and their own particular issue, who've gotten vetted and have, in some cases, have to change based on what the task forces have said. And now you've got a lot of people that are all pulling together, sort of as a chorus, singing with one voice, saying, this is a really credible, good place for municipalities to start. And they're putting the resources behind it. And the resources, in many cases, are actual dollars. And one of the first things that municipalities ask us when we tell them about the program is, how much does it cost? And we say, it's free. And in fact, we make no money from municipalities for the certification, which is also a credibility issue, because we're not going to make more or less money depending on how many municipalities get certified. And one of our stated goals is to help municipalities get money and get resources to advance their agendas. So we go to private sources like PSE&G and Walmart and others and try to raise money that we then turn around and give to municipalities in the form of grants. And working with state government, we've gotten state government agencies such as the Department of Environmental Protection and the Board of Public Utilities to agree to write Sustainable Jersey into some of their grant programs, giving Sustainable Jersey municipalities priority access to some of those grants. And right now, it's currently written into a few grant programs, not insignificant, although not changing the world, but they have agreed to dig deeper. So now we're working with them and with other private funders to figure out how we can tie more and more incentives to participation in Sustainable Jersey. So you put all those things together, all these different organizations saying that it's credible, all these different organizations seeing their own priorities reflected in Sustainable Jersey, so they're pushing it. All these different organizations wanting to put their resources, their technical support, their money behind it, and that's why you see in basically 2 years, 340 municipalities pledging to try to get certified, and 74 municipalities already getting certified. So it's pretty impressive. I'm impressed, but I'm partisan. You shouldn't trust me. So another point I want to make about Sustainable Jersey is that it is, when I say it's nonpartisan, this program started under the Corzine administration, and it has been roundly and soundly endorsed by the Christie administration. It's been about a year now, but we did an analysis of the political affiliations of the municipalities in Sustainable Jersey. At the time, there were 90 democratically controlled municipalities that were participating in the program, and there were 89 Republican-controlled municipalities that were in the program. I think there were 25 nonpartisan or independents. So it's been a year since we ran that, but it's probably still similar. So this is at the local level. This is very much not a political issue. This is about our quality of life in our town and specific things that we're going to do. It's very non-ideological. We're lucky that we've been able to span administrations and figure out how we can engage people in focusing on problem solving and issues and do it in a way that the slate of actions that we're recommending to people are sort of roundly recognized as as fair, credible, and nonpartisan. So the last thing that I want to talk about is I want to explain how sustainable Jersey often manifests at the local level and give you some pointers on how you can use it to your advantage as journalists and what to look for if you might be covering it. And one of the really interesting things about the program that makes it very dynamic is that there's only one required element in sustainable Jersey. You have to get 150 or 350 points, and you have to get points in different categories. I mentioned that, but I won't go into a lot of detail. You have to sort of spread it around into different categories, so you're not just doing environmental stuff, just doing economic stuff. But there's only one required action, and that required action is you have to have a green team or a sustainability commission. We don't care what you call it. You call it the Vision 2020 Commission. But you have to have an official appointed body of local government that is charged with riding herd over your Sustainable Jersey initiative. It's given a broad mandate to try to coordinate action at the local level to implement these programs, and that we strongly suggest is not just local government officials and staff, but also includes representatives from the public and from different sectors of the community, the business community, the environmental community, whatever it may be. And that this broad-based commission, well, taking a step back, so thinking about the 340 municipalities that are currently participating in Sustainable Jersey, think about the fact that in a large number of these communities, they have created a brand new, broad-based, participatory, citizen-driven new body of government, brand new body of government that didn't exist before. They've been given a broad mandate to think proactively about what we do in the town, and they've sort of been set free. And it's really been a tremendous vehicle to harness volunteer energy and initiative and combine regular citizen perspectives and energy with the resources and the authority of local government. And how many people here are aware of a green team in the towns or the areas that they work, or seen any activities from those green teams? So, a fair number of you. So the green teams then become an interesting story, because a planning board, for example, is created by law. What a planning board is supposed to do is prescribed by law. A planning board is often playing defense as development applications come to them and they have to react to what developers do. Environmental commissions are also created by law, prescribed by law, have a set number of things that they're supposed to do. A shade tree commission has a narrow scope. They're focused on shade trees, and there's certain things that they have to do. The green team has a very broad perspective, and they can play offense. They can do whatever they want. And there's never planning boards and environmental commissions have been around for decades. These green teams are brand new. No one really knows what to make of it. And whether they know what they're getting into or not, these councils have authorized them to sort of be proactive on this stuff. And so the green teams tend to take all different sizes and shapes. There are small green teams that only have a few staff members that were appointed by the mayor, and they're really focused on municipal government operations. There are giant green teams that have got representatives from all walks of life in the community, and they're big talk fests, and there's everything in between. But these green teams tend to be a sort of a place where action occurs. So I'm going to lay out the process for a municipality to enter into the Sustainable Jersey program, make progress in it, and talk about a few of the bottlenecks or obstacles that they might come across that might be places where you might want to snoop around for a story or ask questions. So, to participate in Sustainable Jersey, the first step is that a municipality has to register. And so that number I gave, 340 municipalities, that's the number of registered municipalities. To register, the municipality has to pass a resolution of the governing body, so the town council or the city council, stating their intent to get certified, stating their intent to be sustainable generally, and appointing someone by name in the resolution to be their lead and contact person in the Sustainable Jersey program. Then they submit that documentation to us, and we give them a password and a username, which gives them access to the back end of our website, where they can start to build their application and upload the actual documents that they'll need to get certified. It also means that they go up onto our website, and you can look up that contact person's name, and their phone number will be right there. If you go onto our website, you'll see a map that says participating communities, and it shows all these certified and registered communities. And if you click on any of those little dots on the map, you'll get all the information on that town. If it's a registered community, it'll have the contact person's name and their phone number, so you can call them up and you can say, hey, what's going on with your green team? And when's the next meeting, and how do I get involved? It'll also have, for many of the communities, an actual survey of the issues that they were planning to implement, or that they consider some things that they want to implement. So that also becomes a list of things that you can look at and say, okay, it says here on your survey that you were interested in doing a greenhouse gas inventory and that you wanted to green the municipal fleet. So how's that going? After they get registered, the next step obviously is to get certified. And to get certified, they have to create a green team. The green team has to be created through an official action of the local government. They become official bodies of local government. And so although it's a gray area, because some do and some don't, they might be subject to sunshine laws, they might be subject to Open Public Records Act. I'm not really, we've gotten different opinions from different local municipal attorneys. Because again, it's not a planning board that's created and authorized through state law, but it is created through an official act of government. So some keep minutes, and some post their meetings in advance, and all that stuff, and some don't, and meaning somebody's living in it. But the contact information for whoever's receiving it will be on our website. You can contact that person. So they have to create a green team through an official action. We strongly recommend that the green team members be representative of the community. And then they actually have to start to implement enough of the actions in here to get points. So what tends to happen in a lot of communities is a couple places where they will get stuck is they will get registered, they'll appoint someone to be in charge, and then nothing happens. There's probably 100 municipalities like that. And nothing's happened because the mayor or the council got cold feet about creating a green team, perhaps, and said, gee, well, if I create this body, they're probably going to try to do stuff, and that sounds like a good pain in the butt. So maybe I don't want to do it. Or there might be other reasons, there were just other issues that were pressing, but that's one place where they tend to get held up. That's also a place where public attention as to what progress you're making can play a role. Another stumbling block tends to occur once the green team gets created. The green team starts to meet. They start to come up with ideas, and nothing happens. So that's also a good place to look for stories and to try to educate the community about what's happening. So what progress is being made towards the Sustainable Jersey certification, what specific actions in the program is the green team interested in trying to implement, and how's that going, and what are the obstacles, if there are. And then finally, after municipalities get certified, they tend to have a press conference, they tend to take credit, deservedly so, for the things that they've done, and they tend to take a deep breath. That deep breath could last 6 months or a year. So that's also a good time to sort of check in and say, what's next? And just so you know, the certification lasts for 3 years. So they can coast on that certification for 3 years, and then they would have to come in again to get recertified. And when I mentioned all the various incentives that are available in the program, as long as they're certified, they still get priority access to the various grants. When their certification expires, they no longer have that access, and that's when they have to come in for certification. And one thing to note, the standards, the specific actions and the levels of performance that we require change and evolve over time as our task forces learn about new science, learn about new best practices, as new consensus among the political consensus or expert consensus emerges. So when those municipalities come back in 3 years, they probably have to do new stuff. they'll probably have to do some of the same stuff that they were doing and do it better. So, that is it in a nutshell. Thank you for your time, and again, I applaud what you're doing, and I'm happy to take any questions. Yes?
Could you give the, just for starters, my name is Jane Filmarino. I've been a reporter for years, with environmental topics for years. I'm very familiar with this, Jersey, but I would like you to explain, people understand, I'm sure, why some of your partners are PSC&G and Dodge, but, you said Walmart, which to many people, the term rate saving jumps up because anybody who's a journalist for any length of time has covered a planning board meeting in which they decided that Walmart is the work of the devil. So could you explain to the newbies in the room how Walmart came into this and what Walmart is doing?
Sure. And some context is that our funding comes from roughly a third from state government. It's actually a little more than state government now, but our goal is to have roughly a third from state government, a third from philanthropic foundations like the Dodge Foundation, and roughly a third from the business community. And that's not by chance. The idea here is that we want to be engaged with all these key sectors, but not be beholden to any one of them, so that neither state government nor any particular company, nor even the foundation, which as much as we love the foundation, has its own point of view, could by themselves kind of boss the program around and capture us. So among our corporate funders, Walmart, PSC&G, a bunch of others, and we've got two basic ways that a corporate entity, a for-profit entity, can give us money. One, they can just be a straight sponsor, and that's a simple thing where they give us money, depending on how much money, they can have their logo be a certain size on our printed materials, and that's the end of the relationship. It doesn't confer any endorsement, it just means that they're sponsoring us, and they're sort of like an advertiser, and they support what we do. The other way that they can do it is they can fund one of our grant programs, and that's what Walmart does. And we've been talking, we only have one grant program right now, but we hope to expand it in the future, and we've been talking with some other corporations. Basically, they give us funds, which we then turn around and give to municipalities. And so Walmart gives us roughly $200,000 a year, which we then make available to municipalities to implement projects specifically that will score them points towards their Sustainable Jersey certification. So it has to be something on this list that they can get credit for. The Walmart grants, the check comes from Walmart, and we have an independent review panel that determines who gets the grants, and we have a set of, a published set of criteria. And Walmart has no influence over those criteria, nor do they have any influence or participate, or are they even in the room when the review committee meets to determine the award winners. And people on that committee include New Jersey Future and Jane Kenny, who's a retired equipment administration official who's known for green initiatives, and the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, and sort of well-known environmentalists and people in the business community. Broad-based. And so they vote, and that's where it goes. And so we actually, in the Sustainable Jersey, we moderate those meetings, but we don't vote. We don't vote who we're voting for. So we're trying to raise money to help municipalities do good stuff, and we're not taking ownership over, we're not scrutinizing and making judgments about Walmart or PSC&G or the Dodge Foundation about other things that they do, but we know that we're putting that money to good use. Do you have a follow-up, or does that answer your question?
No, it answers my question. I really wanted, to explain you to explain to them. Can you also deal just? I'm sorry. No. Can you also? Some of the grants have funded initiatives that cross municipal lines or that cover a region. They come out of one municipality, but they actually do some good for region. I'm thinking of the initiative in Warren and Sussex County, where a Walmart grant-funded project in Hartford Township, Warren County, was implemented through Sussex County Community College. Can you,
That's a good thing. one of the problems that Sustainable Jersey is trying to solve is you've got 566 units of local government who've been given vast authority by the quirks of our system, but have very little capacity to implement it. And having 566 municipalities independently come up with a global warming policy, an energy policy, or a vehicle fleets policy just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so Sustainable Jersey is trying to, in a very credible way, help them all find the right path. And we very much encourage them to band together to do something. And we explicitly tell them that if you are working with another municipality or even a community group to achieve some of these things, we'll give you credit as long as your municipality is not a passive recipient. Your municipality to get credit for this wonderful initiative that some nonprofit group did, or some county did, or some regional group did, you have to contribute some material way. You can't be a passive recipient. So we encourage that, and in the Walmart grants, if they want to band together, we encourage that. And if municipalities like Westwood, for example, which is a good example, want to help other municipalities do things like use biodiesel and make available their some of the biodiesel that they have to other municipal vehicles, we certainly encourage that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, yes.
Just want to share a story to point out some of my concerns that make this initiative problematic, and highlighting the point you made with respect to the diesel idling program in the New Jersey Environmental Federation. When the governor recently withdrew from the Northeast Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, he felt the need because that was perceived as being so much not in the public interest and so much kowtowing to power companies, that he felt the need to lay out what he viewed as his environmental achievements. And one of the elements of that environmental record of the governor was a very small bore pilot idling program that had de minimis, if even measurable, impacts on air quality and public health. Yet he had a whole systematic reign of terror on the environment that went unacknowledged. And the group that he held out to support him on that was the New Jersey Environmental Federation, who has since, for the last 18 months, given the governor support and credibility in the media and to the public in New Jersey. So just because something is nonpartisan does not mean it's not political, and very political. And that gets to my second point, where again you use the observation of comparing a green team to a local planning board. And NJHNA in particular, mentioning NJHNA. NJHNA, when the whole Environmental Commission was established under the land use law, the question became, what would the recommendations of the Environmental Commission be? Would they be binding upon a planning board? Would they be binding upon an applicant and a developer? And the environmental commissions were cut out. They were given advisory roles only. So my concern here is that you've got now a new parallel process with a green team that goes out and beats the weeds. And in the meantime, Walmart comes in with a development application, and the planning board revises the master plan and the township committee revises zoning ordinance to make it happen. And the green team is off on Tuesday night paying attention to some voluntary measure that can't be enforced and implemented, that has marginal benefits. In the meantime, they're proceeding in good faith, but the ship is leaving the dock on the meaningful stuff, which is where the development footprint really comes from, where the environmental impact really comes from. And yet people of good faith who want to do the right thing at the local level are participating in a process that's basically a diversion from the real game. And so when you say that this initiative is consensus-based, broadly backed, of course, because there's common interest. Governor Christie has the same interest as Walmart, who has the same interest as Bob Martin, in saying we are doing good things on the sustainability front, and we are good corporate citizens, and we are good progressive politicians, and yet when you look at the merits, it's not happening. So how do you address that concern, and how do you respond to my criticism that virtually all your performance elements deal with non-traditional regulatory voluntary measures that cannot be implemented push comes to shove?
Non-traditional, non-regulatory, and missing the point. Those are different allegations, and you're saying that they're missing the point, or they're not the critical element. So, No, I'm talking about measurable results. Today's a bad air day, I could see it, I can measure it. I don't need to have a PhD in air quality science. Everybody in the room knows it.
but yet, you know, they're not going to be talking about that. They're not going to be talking about, you know,
I'm not-
Arizona's on fire, the Mississippi Basin is flooding, the Rockies are
So
flooding.
the thing that I did take is you basically said that the green team will be off pursuing whatever issues it's pursuing when Walmart comes in with a development application, and they'll be distracted from the real issues. That's the main thing that I took from what you said. You know, there's more work to be done at the local level than any one entity can do. And planning board, you know, the green team is not supposed to supplant the planning board, and it's not supposed to supplant the zoning board, and it's not supposed to supplant the zoning commission. It's not supposed to supplant the shade tree commission. But it is the only entity in these municipalities that's not playing defense, that they can think proactively about what to do. And it is also very specifically not just grounded in land use, because land use is, you know, I make no bones about the fact that there are a lot of actions in here that are dealing with policy and not planning in the traditional land use sense. So this does deal with planning. And very specifically, you can get credit for doing natural resources inventory, for protecting key lands, but you know, that's not the only thing. And you and I may disagree, but I think tracking your greenhouse gas emissions, making your buildings more efficient, doing renewable energy projects, doing tree canopy protection, you know, those things are important. And they might not be your thing, but that doesn't mean that they're a distraction. And that doesn't mean that if there's a big issue, like a development issue that comes in, that people still shouldn't be worrying about energy anymore. Like, we should not do energy because Walmart might come in with a development application. Therefore, if the green team is working on energy issues, it's a distraction. I really just don't see it that way. I also think that having an independent voice on a green team, you know, when a development application that's not in line with sustainability principles comes in, I can't say what green teams would or would not do. They're independent entities, so based on who's on them, they'll decide what they're going to do. But I imagine that they would weigh in, like everybody else would. And having more entities that are weighing in, that have a specific charge to think about sustainability, is a good thing, not a bad thing. I also want to address your point about the Environmental Federation. I have absolutely no comment on the Environmental Federation's role in the state of New Jersey mainstream politics. What I can say, however, is that the Environmental Federation has done what we decided was good work on developing resources to help municipalities figure out how to do an anti-idling campaign, and that they've done yeoman's work in figuring out a set of standards that municipalities could adopt on buying environmentally preferable products or green products in municipalities. And so on those two items, working with academics from Rutgers, working with the Government Purchasers Association, working with other nonprofit organizations, working with the Deidre Isles Foundation, we vetted what they had done, and we said our mantra is not to reinvent the wheel and not to do work where good work already exists. And we vetted what they had done, and our task force found it credible. And so we tweaked it a little bit and we changed it a little bit, but we brought in much of their work. And as a result, they now like Sustainable Jersey. And take the Environmental Federation and multiply it by 100, 200 other organizations. And I similarly have no concept of what those other organizations are doing in the broader world of politics. But I do know that we have created a very credible vehicle for vetting specific things that they do or that they might bring to the table. And in some cases, we will say, you know, that actually doesn't meet our standard, or doesn't meet what we consider best practice or current science. And that's what we're supposed to do. But we're not going to specifically rule out something. So I see you hovering.
No, it was great. I didn't want to interrupt you. And I was going to say one last question, but we really are over time right now, so I can't even take another question. Randall, are you going to be here later? Are you hanging out, or do you have to run?
Kids are on vacation, so I have to go.
All